Tonight I want to speak to you about the secret of living from the end. Not striving for victory, not struggling toward achievement, but acting, moving and thinking from the awareness that you have already won. For it is not what you hope for tomorrow that manifests, but what you assume to be true this very moment. To act like you have already won is to enter the only state from which the promise is fulfilled. Sleep. The law of assumption. Tonight I want to draw your attention to the greatest secret of creation. The law of assumption. All that you behold in this world, every circumstance, every relationship, every condition of life, is nothing more than the outpicturing of an inner assumption. Man, not knowing this, attributes the events of his life to chance, to fate, to conditions beyond his control. Yet I tell you, nothing comes into being in your world that was not first assumed by you, whether knowingly or unknowingly. The law is simple. What you assume to be true, though denied by reason, though contradicted by the evidence of the senses, will, if persisted in, harden into fact. Your assumption is the mold into which the world must pour itself. This is why I say to you, act like you have already won. For to act as though the victory were behind you is to assume the end as present, and the end assumed becomes the means through which life reshapes itself. Man is forever mistaking effect for cause. He sees poverty and thinks it the cause of his despair. He sees sickness and thinks it the cause of his sorrow. But the cause lies deeper. The cause is assumption. To live in the assumption of lack is to bring forth lack. To dwell in the assumption of defeat is to encounter defeat. But to live in the assumption of wealth, of health, of victory, is to call these things into being. You may ask, how can assumption create reality? Because assumption is imagination, and imagination is God. Imagination creates, sustains and transforms the world. The great secret is that the reality you know is but the shadow cast by your inner state. Change the assumption, and you change the shadow. Consider the dreamer in the night. While asleep, he accepts the most fantastic circumstances, without question. He may fly through the air, walk upon water, or speak to those long departed. And yet, while dreaming, all seems natural, all seems real. Why? Because the dreamer has assumed it to be so. And upon waking, he may say, it was only a dream. But I tell you, this waking world is no different. It too is dream, projected by the assumptions you most firmly entertain. If you would test the law, begin this night to assume the state you long to see externalized. Choose it, not vaguely, but clearly. Define the end. Do not concern yourself with the steps, for the steps will be provided. Assume the victory, feel its reality, and walk in it as though it were already yours. Now I do not mean to play make-believe, for make-believe is a child's game of pretending without conviction. I speak of assumption with feeling, with faith, with inward acceptance. It is a creative act, a spiritual embrace of the end as present. When you clothe yourself inwardly with the feeling of victory, you impress it upon the subconscious mind, and the subconscious, being impersonal and fertile, brings forth the likeness of that which has been impressed upon it. Many will say, but I cannot assume what I do not yet see. The facts deny it. My friend, facts are not final. They are the echoes of past assumptions. If you would wait until the facts change, you will wait forever. For nothing changes until assumption changes. To assume is to rise above facts, to stand upon a higher principle, to declare that imagination creates reality, and to prove it by your fidelity to the unseen. The law of assumption does not operate sometimes. It operates always. Whether you are aware of it or not, you are perpetually assuming. When you worry, you assume failure. When you complain, you assume defeat. When you dwell upon limitation, you assume lack. And the law, being indifferent to your state, reproduces faithfully what you most persistently assume. This is why discipline of mind is required. Not discipline in the sense of struggle, but discipline in the sense of choosing deliberately what you will accept as true. Choose this day whom you will serve, the facts of sense or the vision of imagination. If you would act like you have already won, then begin now to assume the state of the winner. Speak inwardly from it. Feel outwardly as it. Conduct yourself, even in the smallest affairs of life, as though the victory were already secure. When you rise in the morning, do not rise as one hoping for change. Rise as one already changed. When you go about your tasks, do not go as one striving toward success. Go as one living from success. For as long as you strive, you confess lack. But when you live as though you already possess, you call into being the fact of possession. Let me give you this principle. Assumption, though false at the moment, if persisted in, will become fact. The world reshapes itself around the assumption, held with conviction. This is not speculation, it is law. You need not concern yourself with how, for the how belongs to God. Assume the end, and the end will draw to itself all necessary means. Perhaps you seek health, then assume the health of one already restored. Do not look at the body and say, it is not yet so. Look within imagination and say, it is already done. Walk as the healthy one, think as the healthy one, feel as the healthy one, and persist. Soon the outer body will conform. Perhaps you seek wealth, then assume the wealth of one already supplied. Do not measure your purse or your bank account. These are but shadows of past assumption. In imagination, accept abundance as real, and live in that reality until it takes form. Perhaps you seek reconciliation, or love, or opportunity. Then assume the joy of one already embraced, already chosen, already elevated. Feel the thrill of fulfillment, and hold it, not for a moment, but until it becomes natural. That naturalness is the secret sign that creation is complete. For assumption is not labor, it is rest. To act like you have already won, is to rest in the certainty of the end. It is to live from the Sabbath, knowing that creation is finished. When you cease from striving and begin to assume, you enter the creative rest, where all things are possible. So I say to you tonight, test the law, dare to assume the end. Walk in it as though it were now, feel it, live it, persist in it, and you will discover that the unseen becomes seen, that the imagined becomes real, that what was once only a desire has clothed itself in fact. For the law of assumption is the law of life. As you sow in imagination, so shall you reap in the world. Act like you have already won, and your world will mirror that assumption with unfailing accuracy. Thieves. Living in the end. To live in the end is to stand where you desire to be and dwell there as though it were already accomplished. It is not to think of success, but to think from success. It is not to dream of fulfillment as something coming tomorrow, but to anchor fulfillment as present as now. For creation is finished, and all that you could ever desire already exists. To live in the end is to appropriate that state and wear it until it feels natural. Most men live in the middle. They live in the tension between desire and fulfillment, forever looking forward, never arriving. They hope, they long, they strive, but they do not occupy the end. And because they do not live there, the end eludes them. I tell you, the secret is not to look toward the promised land, but to enter it in imagination and dwell in it until the world reflects your dwelling place. You see, imagination is not idle fancy. Imagination is the spiritual act of creation. When you imagine the end and feel it real, you call into being the conditions that mirror that end. The means are always provided, but the end must be assumed first. Let me make it plain. If you desire to be successful in your chosen field, do not dwell upon the struggle, the effort, the steps you think are required. Do not live in the middle. Instead, go straight to the end. See yourself as already established, already honored, already living the life you long for. Enter the scene, not as an observer watching from afar, but as a participant within it. Touch it, hear it, feel it, claim it now, and live from it as though it were your present reality. The difference is subtle but vital. To think of is to confess that it is absent. To think from is to confess that it is present. When you think of wealth, you acknowledge that you are not wealthy. But when you think from wealth, you think and act as one who already is. When you think of health, you admit sickness. But when you think from health, you assume the vitality of one already whole. Living in the end is not about pretending. It is not play acting. It is the bold assumption that imagination creates reality, and therefore the end imagined will externalize. Pretending has no conviction, but assumption is clothed with feeling, and feeling is the secret of manifestation. Many say, but I cannot believe what is not yet seen. Yet the very essence of faith is to believe what is unseen. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. To live in the end is to believe before you see, to act before it appears, to stand in victory while the senses still report defeat. The senses will resist you. They will tell you that nothing has changed, that the facts are against you, that you are only deceiving yourself. But remember, the outer world is nothing but the past made visible. It is yesterday's assumption brought to life. If you allow it to dictate today's state, you will repeat yesterday forever. But if you ignore the evidence of the senses and persist in the end, you will break the cycle and create a new fact. You ask, how do I live in the end? You begin in imagination. You close your eyes to the outer world and open the inner eye to the world of vision. There you choose the scene that would be true if your desire were already realized. You do not build elaborate structures. You select a simple, vivid scene that implies the fulfillment of your wish. Then you enter it, you breathe it, you feel it, and you remain in it until it takes on the tones of reality. Perhaps you wish to be married. Then imagine a wedding ring upon your finger. Feel its weight. Turn your hand and see the light play upon it. Hear the congratulations of friends. Let the scene be natural and simple, for the naturalness is the key. Perhaps you wish to be promoted. Then imagine the scene after promotion has occurred. A handshake, a congratulation, a desk with your name inscribed upon it. Keep it simple, but let it carry the implication that your desire is accomplished. Perhaps you wish for health. Then imagine the relief, the joy, the vitality of one already restored. Picture yourself running, laughing, embracing. Feel the ease in your body, the lightness of freedom. And having constructed such a scene, live in it until it feels natural. Repeat it night after night, not as a labor but as a joyful dwelling in your new home. For imagination is a house in which you may dwell, and as you live there, the outer world must reshape itself to conform. Do not be concerned with how the change will occur. That is not your part. Your part is only to assume the end and remain faithful to it. The how is the business of life itself, which is wiser than your reasoning mind. If you try to work out the means, you will stumble, for the means may come in ways you could never anticipate. But if you live in the end, the means will arrive with a seeming naturalness. Now I must warn you, the test of living in the end is persistence. It is not enough to touch the state once and then abandon it. You must dwell in it until it feels natural, until it becomes the atmosphere of your mind. When the assumption feels real, creation is complete, and the world will mirror it. So I tell you, stop living in the middle. Stop longing for what you do not yet see. Stop postponing fulfillment to a future day. Fulfillment is now. If you dare to live in the end, walk as the one you desire to be. Think as that one thinks. Feel as that one feels. Speak from that state, and the world will echo your words. The world cannot resist the man who lives in the end, for he is no longer swayed by appearances. He is anchored in a higher vision, and the facts of sense must bend to him. He is not a beggar asking for what he does not have. He is a creator living from what he has already assumed. Let me close this portion by saying, living in the end is the art of fulfillment. It is the way of certainty, the way of rest, the way of creation. Enter the end boldly. Clothe yourself in its feeling. Persist until it becomes natural. And when it is natural, you will see it with your eyes, touch it with your hands, and know that imagination truly creates reality. 3. The inner conversation. Your inner speech is the seed of your outer world. What you whisper to yourself in the secret silence of your mind is far more powerful than the words you speak aloud. For it is not the public declarations, but the private mutterings, the unguarded dialogues within, that shape your destiny. Man is forever conversing inwardly, and these inner conversations, repeated and believed in, call forth the conditions of life. Let no man think he can assume victory outwardly while rehearsing defeat inwardly. You may smile to the world, you may speak words of confidence to others, but if within yourself you complain, you argue, you doubt, you confess limitation, then those hidden words will bear fruit. For imagination hears not only the loud cry, but the silent whisper. And what it hears, it creates. To act like you have already won, you must master the inner conversation. You must hear within yourself the words of triumph, the tones of victory, the dialogues that would follow the fulfillment of your desire. If you would be successful, hear the congratulations in the secret of your mind. If you would be loved, hear the words of affection and devotion. If you would be free, hear the voice of release and joy. Now this is not theory, this is law. You are forever talking to yourself whether you know it or not. You leave a meeting, and though outwardly it is finished, inwardly you continue the conversation, replaying it, altering it, imagining what you might have said. That inner replay is not idle, it is creation. The subconscious accepts the inner dialogue as fact, and the outer world rearranges itself to fit that inner conversation. Consider this simple truth. If you replay failure inwardly, you will meet it outwardly. If you rehearse quarrels inwardly, you will meet them outward. If you dwell upon lack, upon rejection, upon limitation in your silent speech, life will echo back those very words. For creation is an echo chamber, and every word spoken inwardly returns multiplied. But the same law that condemns you when misused will exalt you when rightly used. If you rehearse victory inwardly, you will meet it outwardly. If you converse as one already supplied, already loved, already fulfilled, life will mirror that fulfillment. The law is impartial. It reproduces the seed you sow, whether of joy or sorrow. I tell you, the secret is to make your inner conversation match your desire. Do not let the facts of sense dictate the dialogue of imagination. Facts are the past. Imagination is the future. When you walk, walk in silence as though already victorious. When you lie down at night, let your last thoughts be the dialogues that would follow the fulfillment of your wish. Perhaps you seek recognition. Then in your inner ear, hear the voice of your superior, your friend, your colleague, congratulating you, praising your accomplishment, affirming your worth. Hear it not once, but again and again, until it rings as real. Perhaps you seek reconciliation. Then hear the words of forgiveness, of affection, of harmony. Let the inner quarrel be silenced, and let the inner dialogue be one of peace. Perhaps you seek financial freedom. Then hear the words of gratitude, of relief, of assurance. Hear yourself saying, I have it, I am free, I am supplied. Let the inner dialogue be one of abundance, not of lack. This is the essence of prayer. Prayer is not begging a distant deity to intervene. Prayer is the controlled inner conversation that matches the end you desire. To pray is to assume the tones of victory and to persist in them until they harden into fact. Let me give you this principle. Your world is nothing but the outpicturing of your inner talking. If you would change the world, change the words you speak to yourself. Do not ask how the change will come. Simply persist in the new conversation, and the means will appear of themselves. Now discipline is required, for the mind has long been trained to wander, to complain, to rehearse fear and failure. But if you would act like you have already won, you must take hold of your inner speech. Refuse the voice of doubt, refuse the whisper of fear, refuse the rehearsal of failure, and instead, speak inwardly, as one already victorious. When the outer world contradicts you, do not yield. Do not give the facts power over your imagination. Continue the inner dialogue of triumph. For the world is a shadow, and the shadow must follow the light. Hold the light of your inner conversation steady, and the shadow will conform. Do you see, my friend, that life is but a dialogue with yourself? You are forever answering your own assumptions. The world speaks back to you in the very tones you have spoken within. To change the conversation of life, you must change the conversation within. So I urge you tonight, practice the art of inner speech. As you go about your day, listen inwardly, become aware of the silent words that pass through your mind. If they are words of defeat, arrest them, and replace them with words of victory. If they are words of lack, replace them with words of abundance. If they are words of sorrow, replace them with words of joy. This is not self-deception, it is self-creation. For you are not deceiving yourself when you assume victory, you are creating it. The deception is in believing the evidence of the senses as final. The truth is imagination, and imagination is revealed in your inner talking. Let your inner speech be anchored in the end. If you desire health, hear yourself speaking from health. I feel wonderful, I am strong, I am alive. If you desire wealth, hear yourself speaking from wealth. It is done, I am secure, I have more than enough. If you desire love, hear yourself speaking from love. I am cherished, I am chosen, I am complete. And as you persist in these conversations, you will notice a shift. The old words will lose their hold, and the new words will feel natural. That naturalness is the sure sign that creation is complete. The world must then echo your new speech, for the outer follows the inner unfailingly. So I say to you, guard the door of your lips, not only outwardly but inwardly. Do not let the tongue of imagination speak words of defeat. Train it to speak words of victory. And as you do, you will find that life itself becomes a chorus of triumph, reflecting back the secret speech of your soul. For the inner conversation is the workshop of creation. There you fashion the world. There you shape destiny. There you call into being the life you desire. Master it, and you master life. A feeling is the secret. The great secret of creation is feeling. All the wisdom of Scripture, all the mysteries of life can be reduced to this. You must feel it real, for it is not the words you speak, nor the thoughts you casually entertain, but the feeling you persist in that shapes your world. Feeling is the creative act, the bridge between imagination and reality. You may repeat affirmations endlessly, but if they are not felt, they are lifeless words. You may declare, I am rich, I am free, I am healthy. Yet if within you the tone of lack or fear remains, the words are empty. The law does not respond to idle chatter. It responds to feeling, for feeling is the one substance from which all things are made. When I speak of feeling, I do not mean fleeting emotion. I do not mean excitement that rises and falls. I mean the deep inward acceptance that something is so. It is the conviction clothed in sensation, the inward embrace of the wish fulfilled. When you feel yourself to be what you desire, though the facts deny it, you impress that state upon the subconscious, and the subconscious, being creative, brings it forth into manifestation. This is why I say to you, act like you have already won. For the act is not mere motion, but the feeling behind the act. You must feel the triumph, the joy, the relief, the confidence of the winner now, before the outer evidence appears. When you carry that feeling, you call to yourself all that corresponds to it. Consider a man who desires freedom from debt. If he goes on repeating, I am free, but still feels the burden of debt, still frets over the bills, still counts the pennies, then his words are drowned by his feeling. But if he allows himself to feel the ease, the relief, the gratitude of one already free, then that feeling, though unseen, is the seed of freedom. Persist in it, and the world must mirror it. Or take the one who longs for help. She may affirm, I am well, yet if inwardly she still fears sickness, still identifies with weakness, still rehearses symptoms, then the feeling is sickness, not health. But if she dares to feel the vitality, the lightness, the energy of one restored, then she has planted the seed of health. Persist in that feeling, and the body must conform. The key is persistence in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The outer world will resist at first. The facts will contradict you. But if you remain faithful to the inner feeling, the facts will change. For the outer is but the shadow of the inner, and the shadow must follow the light. Do not confuse feeling with effort. Creation is not accomplished by strain, but by acceptance. You do not wrestle your way into fulfillment. You rest in it. You feel the end, and you rest in the certainty that it is done. That rest is the Sabbath, the creative stillness, where the seed is planted and left to grow. Let me remind you, creation is finished. Every possible state already exists. You are not creating something new. You are selecting from the infinite states of being, and you select by feeling. When you feel yourself into a state, you fuse with it, and it becomes your world. Think of yourself as an actor upon the stage of imagination. You may play many roles, but the role you feel most natural will become your outer life. If you feel poverty, though you speak of wealth, poverty will remain. If you feel loneliness, though you declare love, loneliness will linger. But if you dare to feel wealth, if you dare to feel love, if you dare to feel victory, then you clothe yourself in that role, and the stage of life rearranges itself accordingly. Feeling is not passive. It is active acceptance. It is choosing deliberately the state you wish to embody. It is saying within yourself, I am already what I seek, and feeling it to be so. The world may laugh, the facts may deny, but if you hold the feeling, the facts will yield. Let me give you this simple method. When you retire at night, close your eyes and enter the scene that would follow the fulfillment of your desire. Do not look at it as though from afar, but enter it and feel it real. If you seek success, feel the handshake of a friend congratulating you. If you seek love, feel the embrace of your beloved. If you seek health, feel the ease of a body at rest. Whatever implies fulfillment, feel it now and drift into sleep wearing that feeling. For the subconscious, impressed in sleep, will bring it forth with power. This is the true art of prayer. Prayer is not begging. It is not pleading with a distant God. Prayer is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you pray, believe you have received it, and you shall. That is the law. You must feel the joy of answered prayer, not the longing of unanswered desire. So I tell you, make feeling your guide. Ask yourself, what would I feel if it were true? And then assume that feeling until it saturates your mind. When doubts arise, return to the feeling. When facts deny you, return to the feeling. When reason mocks, return to the feeling. For feeling, held persistently, reshapes the facts. The greatest secret is this: your outer world is the perfect mirror of your inner feeling. You may deceive the world with words, but you cannot deceive yourself. The feeling you dwell in is the seed you sow, and the harvest cannot be denied. Therefore, if you would change your life, change your feeling. If you would transform the outer, transform the inner mood. If you would live as one victorious, then feel now the triumph of victory. Do not wait for the evidence. Create the evidence by feeling. Feeling is the secret, the silent power, the invisible force that shapes the visible world. Master it, and you master life. Persist in it, and you will discover that imagination, clothed in feeling, is the one and only reality. So tonight I urge you, do not wait for tomorrow. Do not postpone fulfillment. Enter the state now. Feel it real. Walk in it. Sleep in it. Breathe in it. And soon, what you once only dared to feel within will become the solid fact of your world. For truly, feeling is the secret. 5. Ignoring the evidence of the senses. To create the life you desire, you must learn the art of ignoring the evidence of the senses. For the senses, though useful in the world of shadows, are blind to the truth of imagination. They show you only what has been, never what is becoming. If you are ruled by what you see, hear, and touch, you will remain a prisoner of the past. But if you dare to ignore appearances and hold to the unseen reality of your assumption, you will reshape the facts themselves. The outer world is nothing but the echo of inner belief. It is yesterday made visible. The senses report faithfully, but they report only what has already been impressed upon the subconscious mind. They cannot tell you what is possible. They can only tell you what has been accepted. Therefore, if you wait for the senses to confirm your desire before you assume it, you will wait in vain. For the law works in reverse. Assume first, and then the senses will confirm. Consider the farmer who plants a seed. He does not go into the field the next morning and, finding no harvest, declare the seed a lie. He knows that the seed, though unseen, is alive beneath the soil. He waters it, he tends it, and he waits with confidence, knowing that in due season it must appear. So it is with your assumption. They are seeds planted in the soil of imagination. To uproot them because the senses have not yet shown fruit is to destroy the harvest before it begins. You must train yourself to look beyond appearances. When poverty stares you in the face, refuse to bow to it. When sickness clings to your body, refuse to accept it as final. When circumstances mock your desire, refuse to yield. Instead, look within, to the unseen state you have assumed. There lies the truth. Appearances are shadows. Assumption is reality. Do not misunderstand me. I am not asking you to deny the existence of the senses. I am asking you to deny their authority. Let them report what they will, but refuse to let their report determine your state. You may see the body weak, yet assume strength. You may see the purse empty, yet assume abundance. You may see the door closed, yet assume it open. And if you persist, the outer must conform to the inner. The senses are good servants but cruel masters. When you let them dictate your assumption, you bind yourself to repetition. But when you make imagination the master and the senses the servant, you break the cycle and create anew. The world was not built by those who bowed to appearances, but by those who dared to see beyond them. Think of the inventors, the artists, the dreamers who changed the world. To the senses, their visions were madness. The world said, it cannot be done. It does not exist. Yet they held to the unseen, they ignored the evidence, and they persisted until the unseen became seen. So it must be with you. If you desire to be free, and the world calls you bound, ignore it. If you desire to be loved, and the world calls you lonely, ignore it. If you desire to be prosperous, and the world calls you poor, ignore it. For the world only echoes yesterday, but imagination proclaims tomorrow. I tell you, this is the true test of faith. Faith is not believing when the senses agree. Faith is believing when the senses deny. Faith is persistence in assumption despite contradiction. Faith is the refusal to bow to appearances, the steadfast clinging to the unseen vision until the seen yields to it. Do not fear contradiction. Contradiction is the proof that the old state is dying and the new state is being born. The facts may scream against you, but if you remain faithful, they will change. For facts are not final, they are fluid, ever yielding to assumption. Let me give you an example. Suppose you are ill, and the body shows all the symptoms of disease. If you bow to the senses, you will confirm the sickness and prolong it. But if you dare to assume health, if you feel within yourself the vitality of one restored, and persist in that feeling, the body will conform. The senses will shift, the facts will change, and health will be restored. Or suppose you are without money. The bank account is empty. The bills are due, and the world says you are poor. If you accept that verdict, you will remain poor. But if you dare to assume abundance, if you feel the security of one supplied, if you give thanks for wealth unseen, then the facts must shift. Opportunities will arise, doors will open, provision will appear, and the world will echo your assumption. The senses will tempt you to doubt. They will whisper, "It is not true. Look around you. Nothing has changed." But I tell you, do not yield. Hold fast to your inner vision. Say within yourself, "It is done." Walk as though it was so. Speak as though it was so. Feel as though it was so. And the outer world, though slow to awaken, will arise and bear witness. The story of Scripture is filled with this principle. Abraham, though old and without child, assumed the promise of fatherhood and became the father of many nations. Moses, though standing before a sea, assumed deliverance, and the waters parted. David, though facing a giant, assumed victory, and the giant fell. In each case the senses denied, but assumption triumphed. This is the path you must walk. You must learn to live in the inner vision, to see with the eye of imagination, to feel with the heart of faith, and to ignore the evidence of the senses, until it yields. Now this is not always easy. The world is loud, the facts are insistent, the senses are persistent. But if you would live as one who has already won, you must silence their clamor, and listen only to the voice within. For imagination is the true reality, and the world must conform to it. So tonight I urge you, dare to ignore appearances. When the facts deny you, let them deny. When the senses resist you, let them resist. Stand firm in the unseen, and the unseen will become seen. Refuse to be swayed, refuse to bow, refuse to accept the verdict of the senses. Instead, hold fast to your assumption, and the world will bend to it. For the senses are not the master of your destiny. Imagination is. The facts are not the cause of your life. Assumption is. And when you ignore the evidence of the senses, and remain faithful to the unseen, you will discover that the unseen is the only true reality, and the seen is but its shadow. So walk by faith, not by sight. Live by imagination, not by appearance. Persist in the unseen, and you will call it forth into the seen. For truly, to ignore the evidence of the senses is to embrace the creative power of God within you, and by that power all things are possible. 6. Faith as persistence in assumption. Faith is not hope. Faith is not wishful thinking. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is persistence in assumption until that which was unseen becomes seen. Faith is not shaken by appearances, nor is it swayed by delay. Faith holds to the end, and by its holding compels the world to yield. The average man believes that faith is merely believing in God, or believing that God exists. But I tell you, faith is the recognition that imagination is God in action, and that your assumption held persistently is the creative act itself. Faith is loyalty to unseen reality. Faith is remaining at the end, dwelling in the state desired, refusing to move regardless of the evidence of the senses. Now persistence is the key, for many of you assume once, feel the thrill of fulfillment once, and then, when nothing changes, you drop it. That is not faith. That is dabbling in imagination. Faith is endurance. Faith is to stand firm in the assumption, to return again and again to the end, to hold the feeling of the wish fulfilled until it becomes natural. And when it is natural, it must objectify itself. When you first assume, it may feel unnatural. You say, "I am wealthy," but the senses shout back, "You are poor." You say, "I am healthy," but the body whispers, "You are sick." You say, I am free, but the world answers, you are bound. And if you are weak, you yield to the evidence and abandon the assumption. But if you are strong, if you have faith, you return in imagination to the end. You feel the reality of it, you rest in it, you sleep in it, you walk in it, until it becomes more natural to believe than to doubt. That persistence is faith. Faith does not ask how it will happen. Faith does not concern itself with the means. Faith assumes the end and lets the end determine the means. Faith rests in the knowledge that assumption creates reality, and that no power can stop the unfolding of the state once it is accepted as true. Do not confuse faith with emotion. You may feel thrilled one moment and doubtful the next. That is emotion. Faith is not emotion. Faith is loyalty. Faith is the quiet assurance that, having assumed, it is done. Faith is the steadfast refusal to move from the end, no matter how loud the facts may shout. Let me remind you of a story. A woman once came to me with a desire for reconciliation with her estranged husband. She told me of the many years of separation, the bitterness, the hopelessness of the situation. Yet I asked her, can you assume that you are once more happily married? Can you persist in that feeling? She tried. At first it felt foolish, for the facts were against her, but she persisted. Night after night she fell asleep in the feeling of being reunited, of being cherished, of being secure once more in marriage. She refused to yield to the evidence of separation, and in time the facts themselves rearranged. A letter came, then a meeting, then a renewal of love, and finally a remarriage. Faith, persistence in assumption, triumphed over the evidence of years. So it will be with you. If you persist in your assumption, if you dwell in the end, if you live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the world must yield. For the world is only your imagination objectified. Now persistence does not mean strain. It does not mean effort or struggle. It means returning again and again, gently but firmly, to the end. When doubt arises, return. When fear arises, return. When facts arise, return. Again and again, return to the end, until it becomes your dwelling place. Faith is not tested when everything agrees with you. Faith is tested when everything denies you. That is the proving ground of imagination. When the facts contradict your desire, do you persist? When the senses mock your assumption, do you stand firm? When nothing changes outwardly, do you still live inwardly at the end? If you do, then you have faith, and by that faith you will bring the unseen into the seen. Consider the story of the widow in Scripture, who came again and again to the unjust judge, refusing to be denied. Though he had no fear of God nor regard for man, her persistence wore him down, and he granted her request. That is faith. It is persistence that does not yield, loyalty that does not waver, endurance that does not retreat. So it must be with you. You must become as that widow, unrelenting in your assumption, coming again and again to the inner state, refusing to be denied by appearances. And though the facts are unjust, though the senses are against you, persistence will win. For persistence is faith, and faith is the law fulfilled. Faith is not passive, it is active. It is not waiting for things to happen, it is causing things to happen by assuming they have already happened. Faith is the active appropriation of the end. It is saying, it is done, and living as though it was so until the world confirms it. Do not say, and will believe when I see. That is not faith, that is sight. Faith says, I believe though I do not yet see, and because I believe I will see. Faith sees the invisible, feels the intangible, and calls the impossible possible. I tell you, one assumption, held with faith, will change your world. It does not matter how long the facts have stood against you. It does not matter how strong the evidence of the senses may be. Faith is stronger, for faith calls upon the power that created the world. Faith is God in action, imagination at work, the unseen reality pressing into manifestation. So tonight, I urge you, persist, choose your desire, assume its fulfillment, and persist in that assumption. Do not waver, do not retreat, do not yield. Let the winds blow, let the facts deny, let the senses mock. Hold fast, say within yourself, it is done, and live from that end. If you do, nothing can stop the unfolding. The world is a mirror, and it reflects persistence. If you persist in doubt, it will give you more doubt. If you persist in fear, it will give you more fear. But if you persist in faith, it must give you faith's reward. So walk by faith, not by sight. Live in the unseen, not in the seen. Hold to the end, no matter how far off it appears, and the end will draw near. For persistence in assumption is the law of faith, and by that law you shall bring forth all that you desire. 7. Living in the end. To live in the end is to occupy in imagination the state you desire, as though it were already fact. It is to abandon the old man and put on the new. It is to dwell not in longing, not in hoping, not in waiting, but in the assumption that it is finished. Most people live in the middle. They say, one day I shall be, one day it will come, one day I will achieve. And because they live in the middle, their desire remains always one day away. The secret is to leap over the middle and go straight to the end. Live as though the wish were already fulfilled, and in due time, the facts will mirror the state. Now, what does it mean to live in the end? It means to think from the end rather than of the end. When you think of the end, you acknowledge it as something apart from you, something you hope to reach. When you think from the end, you place yourself within it. You see the world from its fulfillment. You feel the reality of being the one who already possesses it. That difference is everything. For example, to think of wealth is to imagine a future in which you may be wealthy. To think from wealth is to feel now the security, the confidence, the ease of one who is already wealthy. To think of health is to imagine a day when you may recover. To think from health is to feel the energy, the vitality, the freedom of one already restored. To think of love is to long for companionship. To think from love is to feel the warmth, the joy, the union of one already beloved. Living in the end means making this inner position your dwelling place. It means resting in the feeling that it is done. It means walking in the assumption, speaking from the fulfillment, thinking from the conclusion, until the world bends to reflect it. Now, this is not pretending. Pretending knows it is false. Pretending says, I act as though, but I know it is not so. Living in the end is different. It is conviction. It is loyalty. It is faith. It is the recognition that imagination creates reality, and that by assuming the end you call it forth into being. Do not wait for the outer to give you permission to live inwardly in the end. Do not say, when I have it, then I will feel it. For that is to place the cart before the horse. You must feel it first, and then you will have it. The outer always follows the inner. Now let me illustrate. Suppose you desire a promotion at work. To live in the middle is to hope, to wait for someone else to decide, to wonder when or if it will happen. But to live in the end is to assume already that you are the one promoted. You feel the new responsibility, the new authority, the new income. You walk into the office in imagination, not as one hoping to be chosen, but as one already chosen. You take your place in imagination, and by persistence in that end, the facts will arrange themselves. Or suppose you desire marriage. To live in the middle is to hope that someone may appear, to wonder if love will ever come. But to live in the end is to feel already the joy of companionship, the warmth of partnership, the security of union. You set a place for two in imagination. You hear the voice of your beloved. You feel the touch of love. You live in the end, and by living there you summon the facts to mirror your inner state. Living in the end requires discipline, for the senses will tempt you to return to the middle. They will remind you of the lack, of the absence, of the contradiction, but you must refuse. You must turn away from appearances and return again to the end. Again and again return to the end, until it becomes natural. The end must become your secret dwelling place. When the world says, it is not so, you say within, it is finished. When the senses deny, you rest in the unseen. When the facts resist, you hold firm to the conclusion. This inner loyalty is the true act of creation. Now scripture teaches this law throughout. When the prodigal returned, the father did not say, one day you shall be my son again. He said, this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. He clothed him at once with the robe, the ring, the shoes, signs of completion. He declared the end, not the process. So it must be with you. You must clothe yourself inwardly with the end. Jesus spoke as though the end were already complete. He did not say, one day there will be harvest. He said, lift up your eyes and see, the fields are white already. He did not say, one day you may be healed. He said, it is done. Always the end, never the middle. That is the way of faith. If you can live in the end, you can create any state you desire, for the end contains the means. Assume the end, and the bridge of incidents will appear to carry you there. But if you focus on the means, you will get lost in details. Live in the end, and the means will unfold naturally. Now, living in the end does not mean you withdraw from the world. You continue to act, to move, to work, but inwardly, you dwell in fulfillment. Outwardly you may be in one place, but inwardly you live at the destination. Outwardly you may not yet hold it, but inwardly you possess it. That inner possession is the cause of outer possession. Let me remind you, the end is not merely a future condition. It is a present state of consciousness. When you assume the end, you shift your inner state, and that inner state, once sustained, hardens into fact. So you are not waiting for the end, you are living it now, and because you live it now, it must manifest in time. Many fail because they doubt. They assume for a moment and return to the middle. They live in hope, not in faith. They wait for signs before they believe. But the law is sure. You must first live in the end, then the signs will follow. The signs do not cause the end. The end causes the sign. So tonight I say to you, choose your desire and live in its end. Do not ask how. Do not concern yourself with the details. Simply occupy the end. Dwell there. Think from it. Feel from it. And the bridge of incidents will carry you naturally to its fulfillment. If you want success, live in the end of being successful. If you want health, live in the end of being healthy. If you want freedom, live in the end of being free. If you want love, live in the end of being loved. Take the end now and let the world catch up. Living in the end is the highest expression of faith. It is saying, though the facts deny, I dwell in fulfillment. Though the senses mock, I rest in completion. Though nothing yet appears, I live as though it were done. That inner stance compels the outer to mirror it. So live no longer in the middle. Do not wait. Do not hope. Do not linger. Leap to the end. Take it now. Wear it inwardly. Walk in it inwardly. Sleep in it inwardly. Until it becomes your natural dwelling. And when it is natural inwardly, it must become visible outwardly. For truly the end is the beginning. The conclusion is the cause. And to live in the end is to live in the creative power of God Himself. 8. Disregarding time and delay. Time is the great deceiver. It whispers to you, not yet. It says, perhaps in the future your desire may come. And if you listen to it, you postpone your fulfillment forever. For imagination knows no time. Creation is finished. Every state already exists. And to assume it now is to enter it now. Delay is only the refusal to claim it as present. You see, man has been taught to measure by clocks and calendars. He believes that fulfillment must take years, months, or at least many tomorrows. But I tell you, your assumption, once accepted, is now. The moment you dare to feel yourself the one you desire to be, in that instant you have entered the state. The outer may take a little while to rearrange, but the inner is already accomplished. Scripture declares, now is the acceptable time, not tomorrow, not next year. Now, eternity is not endless duration. It is the eternal present. Your true self lives only in now. When you project fulfillment into the future, you confess that it is not now, and so it remains not now. But when you feel it now, though the outer has not yet shown it, you have claimed it, and the world must bend to reveal it. Consider the seed planted in soil, in its invisible realm. The harvest is now. All that is needed is contained within the seed. To the senses, time appears necessary, for the outer manifestation must unfold. But the farmer does not doubt in the waiting. He knows it is done. The delay does not disturb him, for he has already claimed the harvest in planting. So it must be with you. When you assume, you plant. When you persist, you water. When you disregard time, you reap. The danger is in watching the clock, in measuring the days and asking when will it happen. For to ask when is to confess it has not yet happened. And the law is exact. As you assume, so it becomes. Now let me say, delay is not denial. Delay is often only the time it takes for the world to rearrange itself to mirror your state. You may plant an oak and wish for it to appear tomorrow, full grown, but even the oak unfolds in order. So with your assumption, the state is already yours inwardly, but the facts must shift. The people must move. The incidents must arrange themselves. That interval is not delay. It is the bridge of incidents. But here is the secret. While the bridge unfolds, you must remain loyal to the end. If you look at the clock, if you measure the delay, if you grow impatient, you uproot the seed. You say, it has not happened, and in so saying, you return to the state of not having. But if you disregard time, if you say, it is done, and rest in that feeling, the bridge will carry you to the fulfillment. I recall a man who once came to me, longing for freedom from debt. He assumed the end. He felt the relief of being financially free. But when nothing changed in a week, he grew restless. He said, "It is not working. Where is the result?" I reminded him, "Do not measure by time. Live in the end and disregard the clock." He listened, and this time he persisted without watching. Within weeks, unexpected provision came. Debts were cleared, and abundance flowed. The difference was not in the assumption, but in the disregard of time. Time is only a measure of change, but assumption is the cause of change. If you are faithful to the assumption, the changes must appear. The clock cannot resist the law. Do not ask, "How long will it take?" That question reveals doubt. Instead, say within, "It is already done." Live as though you had received it. Rest in the confidence that the unseen is greater than the seen. When you disregard time, you release imagination to work freely. Remember the words, "Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry." The tarrying is only to the senses. To imagination, it is immediate. The outer delay is but the shadow catching up to the substance. Now let me be clear. Disregarding time does not mean indifference. It means confidence. It means refusing to measure by the outer. It means walking in faith, knowing that the end is secured. If you have assumed it is done, do not watch the hourglass. Walk in the fulfillment. Some of you will say, "But Neville, I have been assuming for months, even years, and nothing has changed." I answer, the change is certain if you persist. But examine yourself. Have you truly lived in the end? Or have you lived in the middle, always postponing fulfillment? Have you claimed it as now? Or have you secretly said, "One day"? For the law knows no tomorrow. It only knows now. Your task is not to hasten the outer, but to remain loyal to the inner. Do not be concerned with speed. Be concerned with faith. Do not ask, "Why is it taking so long?" Ask, "Am I living in the end?" If the answer is yes, then time is irrelevant, for the result must come. When you disregard time, you disarm doubt. Doubt feeds on delay. It says, "If it were true, it would have happened by now." But if you disregard time, you silence that voice. You say, "It is already so. The when is not my concern. My concern is only to remain faithful." And in that faith, the bridge unfolds. Scripture speaks again. He calleth those things which be not as though they were, not as though they will be, but as though they were. That is the attitude of disregarding time. You speak the end as present. You feel it as now. You walk in it as real, and by so doing, you hasten its appearance. Think of your desire as already accomplished. Feel the joy of having it. Live in that state. And when the question of time arises, answer it with silence. Do not measure. Do not count. Do not question. Simply rest in the fulfillment. Now hear me well. Impatience is the confession of unbelief. To grow impatient is to say, "It is not yet mine." But faith says, "It is mine now." And when you rest in that conviction, you are free from time. The outer may take its season, but inwardly you are already complete. And because the inner is complete, the outer must follow. So tonight I urge you, disregard time. Do not let the clock rob you of faith. Do not let delay deceive you into denial. Hold fast to the end. Live as though it were now, and let the bridge unfold. You will find that when you cease to measure, the fulfillment often comes swiftly, for it is the watching, the waiting, the doubting that delay. But when you let go of time and rest in the now, the state flows easily into form. So remember this, imagination is timeless, faith is timeless, the end is timeless. If you assume it is done, the outer will reveal it in due season. But you need not care when. Disregard time, and you will live in the freedom of fulfillment. For truly delay is an illusion, and time is but the servant of assumption. When you live in the end and refuse to measure by the clock, you discover that all you seek is already here, already now, already yours. 9. The bridge of incidents. Creation is finished. Every state already exists. Nothing is to be created. Everything is to be selected. But how does that which is unseen become seen? How does imagination, once accepted, become fact? It does so by means of what I call the bridge of incidents. The bridge of incidents is the natural unfolding of events that lead you from your present state to the state assumed. Once you occupy the end, once you feel yourself already the one you desire to be, life begins to rearrange itself. People, circumstances, and opportunities move into place. You may call it coincidence. You may call it chance, but it is law. The assumption hardens into fact through the bridge. Now hear this clearly. The bridge is natural. It does not descend from the clouds with angels and trumpets. It is the sequence of ordinary events that when traced backward reveal a perfect order. You may not see the pattern while crossing it, but when you look back you will say how perfect, how inevitable, for every step was ordered by the unseen cause, your assumption. Do not try to plan the bridge. Do not ask how it will unfold. That is not your concern. Your task is only to live in the end. The bridge will build itself. The law will take care of the means. If you try to dictate the path, you interfere. If you trust the end, the path appears naturally. Let me give you an example. A man desired a position of influence, yet outwardly he held no such place. He assumed it. He felt himself in authority, respected, heard. He persisted in that feeling. Soon a chain of events unfolded. A chance meeting, a recommendation, an unexpected vacancy, and finally his appointment. Looking back, each step was necessary, yet none could have been planned. That was the bridge of incidents. Or consider the woman who longed for healing. She assumed health. She lived in the end of vitality. In the outer she was led to a physician she had never considered, then to a treatment she had never known, then to a recovery that astonished her. She had not devised the path, but by dwelling in the end she crossed the bridge that led to it. The bridge may be swift, or it may be slow. It may be pleasant or it may be challenging. Do not judge the bridge, trust it. For if you dwell in the end, every incident, pleasant or painful, is a step toward fulfillment. Even seeming obstacles are part of the bridge. What appears as delay, or setback, or resistance, is often the very means by which the state is realized. Do not despair when the bridge seems strange. Many abandon their assumption, because the path surprises them. They say, if this were leading to fulfillment, it would not look like this. But I tell you, trust the unseen wisdom. The bridge knows what you do not know. Life moves in ways beyond your reason. If you remain faithful to the end, you will discover that even the detours were necessary steps. Now remember, you are always crossing bridges. For every assumption leads somewhere. If you assume lack, the bridge will lead you through incidents of loss. If you assume failure, the bridge will lead you through circumstances of disappointment. If you assume success, the bridge will lead you through steps of opportunity. You cannot escape the law. You can only choose the end. And by choosing, you choose the bridge. Do not wait for the bridge to begin before you assume. The bridge begins the moment you feel the wish fulfilled. Life starts moving at once. The first step may be invisible, but the sequence has begun. Trust it. I recall a man who assumed abundance. Soon after, he lost his position. To the senses, it looked like failure, but he persisted in abundance. Out of that seeming loss came a greater opportunity, one that doubled his income and expanded his influence. Looking back, he saw that the loss was not an end, but the first step on the bridge. So I say to you, judge not the bridge. If you have chosen the end, then every incident is part of the way. Do not resist. Do not fear. Do not doubt. Remain faithful and the bridge will carry you. Now let us be practical. Suppose tonight you choose wealth. You assume the feeling of financial security. You persist in that state. Tomorrow an event occurs. You meet a stranger. You hear of an opportunity. You receive unexpected news. That is the bridge beginning. Do not dismiss it. Do not say this is unrelated. Nothing is unrelated. Every incident is connected. Walk through the doors that open. Respond naturally, but remain inwardly in the end. Or suppose you desire reconciliation. You assume the end of harmony, of union, of forgiveness. Outwardly there may first be confrontation, or words of anger, or seeming separation. Do not the bridge may pass through such incidents to dissolve the old state. If you persist, the end will appear. The bridge is wise. It knows the shortest, surest path, but often it does not look as you expect. That is why I urge you, let go of the how. Do not dictate. It must happen this way. Simply assume the end, and trust life to arrange the means. Scripture speaks this truth in symbol. Joseph dreamed of rulership, and his brothers hated him. He was sold into slavery, cast into prison, forgotten by men. To the senses, these were tragedies, yet each was a step on the bridge. Without slavery, he would not reach Egypt. Without prison, he would not meet Pharaoh's servant. Without the servant, he would not interpret Pharaoh's dream. And without the dream, he would not become ruler. Looking back, the bridge was perfect. So it will be with you. Now some of you resist the bridge because it disturbs your comfort. You say, I want the end, but I do not want the process. But you cannot separate them. The bridge belongs to the end. When you choose the end, you choose the path that leads to it. Yet do not fear it. The bridge is never against you. It is for you. Every incident is working together for good. Learn to bless the bridge. When events arise, say, this too is part of the way. When obstacles appear, say, even this is working for fulfillment. When delays occur, say, this is the unfolding of the bridge. By blessing it, you walk it with peace. Now let me give you this counsel. Remain inwardly at the end while walking the bridge. Outwardly you may pass through varied circumstances, but inwardly stay in fulfillment. The bridge may wind, but the end is certain. Do not waver. Do not abandon the state because the road is strange. Hold to the end and the bridge will carry you to it. So tonight I urge you, accept your desire as already done. Live in its end, and then trust the bridge. Do not plan it. Do not resist it. Do not fear it. Simply live in the end and let life carry you. When you look back, you will see that every step was perfect, that every incident was necessary, that the bridge was the invisible hand of God leading you home. For truly there is no chance, no accident, no coincidence. There is only law. The bridge of incidents is law in motion, imagination made visible, the path of fulfillment. And if you are faithful to the end, the bridge will appear, and by it you will cross from desire to realization. 10. The victory of assumption. We have traveled together through the principles of imagination, feeling, faith, and persistence. We have seen the power of living in the end, of disregarding time, and of walking the bridge of incidents. And now we arrive at the culmination, the victory of assumption. Victory is not found in struggle. Victory is not earned through toil or hardship. Victory is the natural consequence of having assumed the state you desire. When you assume, when you persist, when you dwell in the end, the world must yield. That is the law. That is the creative principle. That is the truth that underlies every success, every healing, every fulfillment of desire. Many of you think victory must wait. You look at your circumstances and see defeat. You look at the world and see opposition. You look at your body, your finances, your relationships, and you say, it is not yet. But I tell you, the moment you assume the end, the moment you feel the fulfillment within, victory has already been won. The outer must catch up. But the inner triumph is immediate, absolute, and irrevocable. Assume the state and persist in it, and you have already achieved. To assume is to declare completion. To persist is to insist upon it. The victory of assumption is not external. It is internal first. When the inner is settled, the outer can no longer resist. Do not allow yourself to be deceived by appearance. The world may scoff. The senses may deny. The facts may contradict. But the victory of assumption is beyond the senses. It cannot be undone by time, by circumstance, or by other people. Once you have assumed and remain faithful, the law operates invisibly, inevitably, until the outer reflects what has long been established within. Let me speak plainly. Victory is not a reward. Victory is not conditional. Victory is not a matter of luck or favor. Victory is the inevitable result of correct assumption. The moment you occupy the state, the world must answer. The bridge of incidents will carry you. Doors will open. Opportunities will appear. People will respond. Circumstances will bend. And you will see in the outer what has already been true in the inner. Consider the life of Joseph, sold into slavery, betrayed, imprisoned unjustly, forgotten, yet he held within the vision of greatness. He assumed it. He lived inwardly, in the end of being exalted. And though the path was long, the bridge of incidents unfolded perfectly, leading him to the palace of Pharaoh, to rulership, to abundance. His victory was not given by others. It was claimed by assumption and faith. So it is with you. Your victory is not dependent upon the world recognizing it, upon others granting it, upon the outer agreeing. Your victory is claimed inwardly first, and the outer must conform. Persist in the inner, and the outer becomes inevitable. Victory requires courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to be moved by fear. Fear is the whisper of the senses, the voice of contradiction, the call of the middle. But courage says, I occupy the end. I am already victorious. I shall not be moved by appearance. Courage keeps the imagination loyal, keeps the feeling faithful, keeps the assumption steadfast. And in that courage, victory is assured. Do not wait for victory to appear before you celebrate it. Celebrate now. Feel it now. The celebration is not merely a response. It is the evidence of assumption. When you rejoice inwardly, you send the signal to the subconscious, and the subconscious moves the world to match your state. Victory must be inward first. Outward success is only a reflection. Let me remind you, persistence is essential. Many claim to assume, yet they falter when the outer contradicts. They say, I assumed, but nothing has happened. I say, you have not assumed fully. True assumption does not waver. True assumption persists. True assumption remains inwardly undefeated, despite outer appearances. The victory of assumption is not in what you see. It is in what you persist in feeling. Think of your desire clearly in detail. See it as accomplished. Feel the joy, the relief, the triumph. Enter fully into the state of the one who has already received. Do this consistently, daily, nightly, every moment you can. Let the world test you. Let the facts deny. Let the senses challenge. But never move from the end. The law is your ally. It cannot fail. The bridge will carry you. The outer will yield. The victory is yours. Remember the power of imagination. What you imagine and feel as real becomes your world. Imagination is God within you, the creative principle, the source of all manifestation. If you have imagined it perfectly, if you have felt it inwardly, if you have persisted, then victory is guaranteed. It is already done. Your imagination has enacted it, and the world must respond. Do not measure by time. Do not measure by appearances. Do not measure by what is yet to manifest. Measure by your faith, by your loyalty, by your persistence in the end. Measure by the state you occupy inwardly. That is the truest measure of victory. Many stumble because they look for evidence too soon. They say, I must see it now, or I shall despair. But the law is not hasty. It unfolds according to wisdom. The bridge of incidents must form. Circumstances must align. People must move. If you are impatient, you disrupt the process. If you persist, you flow with it. And when the sequence completes, the outer finally reflects what the inner has long known. That is the victory of assumption. And understand this. No desire is too small. No desire is too great. Wealth, health, love, success, freedom, each responds to assumption. If you can feel it, if you can assume it, if you can dwell in it, the law will act. There is no limitation except what you accept inwardly. The moment you release doubt, release fear, release the tyranny of appearances, you claim all. Victory is not a distant goal. It is a present reality. You may not yet see it outwardly, but inwardly it is yours, and inwardly claimed. It cannot be denied. You have only to persist, to remain loyal, to dwell in the end, and the outer must reflect the inner. So tonight I urge you, choose your desire, enter fully into the state of fulfillment, feel it real, live it now, persist in that state despite all appearances, rejoice inwardly as though it were already done, and watch as the bridge unfolds, as doors open, as circumstances bend, as people respond, and as the outer finally reflects the inner truth. For the victory of assumption is absolute, it is guaranteed, it is inevitable. The moment you assume and persist, you have already won. The outer will follow. The facts will yield. Life itself will arrange itself to demonstrate the fulfillment of your desire. And now, go forth with confidence. Persist in the end. Ignore appearances. Disregard time. Walk the bridge faithfully. Celebrate inwardly. Live as though you have already triumphed. And the world, which cannot resist the law, will bow to your assumption. Victory is yours. Claim it now, and live it forever.